Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Machbitz, and today is a solo episode of the podcast, and probably, if not the most important episode that I do all year. I've done this episode every single year of this podcast in honor of May being Mental Health Awareness Month and in honor of my sister, Rachel. So again, yes, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's an extremely important month. Mental health is extremely important to me, and is the cornerstone of this podcast. It's the foundation of my work, my massive transformative purpose, or my purpose in life. My North Star is to end mental suffering. It's the reason why I have the conversations and the solo episodes that I do on this podcast, and it all centers around or stems from my sister, Rachel. So May is an important month because of Mental Health Awareness Month, but it's really important because May is also the birth month or the birthday of my sister, Rachel. She was born on May 1st, 1990. So this coming May, or this May on May 1st, whenever you're watching or listening to this, she would have been 35 years old. She's 2 years older than me. In June, I turned 33. Our birthdays were very close to each other. We were very close in age, and we were very close in general. She was the best big sister of all time. She was my first best friend. And the reason why I say it like that is because in September of 2018, my sister Rachel died by suicide. She ended her own life due to a long list and arduous and painful journey with her mental health issues, which I journey and talk about extensively in a lot of other episodes, so I won't get into those specifically in this episode. But please, if you're curious about my sister and her story and things of that nature, please send me a message or a DM, or you can go to youarelovedlife.com for more information about her and my mental health nonprofit, You Are Loved, which came from her passing. And now, 6 years later, really diving deep into the mental health space and the mental health world. Why I do this episode every year is because this podcast continues to grow and continues to get new listeners every single day and every single year. And I think it's important for listeners and people who want to be fans and listen to this podcast and share it around and want to get some information and wisdom and valuable insights from this show, need to understand where this all stems from, why I took this journey, why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and what's most important to me, and what's my purpose moving forward in this life. And it is because of my sister Rachel that I continue to do this work in the best way that I know how. That's why I do this episode in May for her and her birthday and for Mental Health Awareness Month. Now, let's get into some of the things that I think are important about Mental Health Awareness Month. Of course, it's important to understand why we have a Mental Health Awareness Month, so we can become more aware of how important mental health is. Obviously, right? I have this three-pronged approach, which I'm going to mention a lot throughout this episode, which is awareness, acceptance, action, right? First, we must become aware of something before we can change it at all. And so for a long period of time, we ignored mental health as being important at all. We ignored our feelings, we ignored our emotions, we shoved them down deep, and obviously that causes lots of issues and problems. We know that mental health, instances and crisis and depression and anxiety are on the rise. So yes, I think we've become aware of mental health. I think we really have, as a society. We've done a good job. I'm not saying we've totally reduced or destroyed the stigma that surrounds mental health. I'm sure there's still cultures and sects in certain societies that just will never, come to terms with how important our mental health is in regards to us becoming the best, most capable versions of ourselves. But for the most part, we are very aware of mental health. We've done that awareness part. Now we're in the middle of this acceptance part, actually accepting that it's a reality, that we have these emotions and we have unhealed trauma and we have all these things that, all these ingredients that go into our mental health and us being well and understanding ourselves better, understanding what we want and what we don't want, and our values and our beliefs. And all of these things have to do with our mental health and how it's deeply interconnected with our physical health and how we can take care of that. So we have awareness, We have acceptance. Now, the most important step, which I argue what we need to do even more, is action. So we have this mental health awareness month. I think it needs a rebrand, which I've said before on many episodes, but I'm saying it again because it's the hill that I'm willing to die on and something that I think absolutely needs to happen if we're going to address this mental health crisis head on and make sure that majority of society is mentally well, is understanding themselves, is understanding the tools and tactics and services that they can use to make sure that they're the best versions of themselves in greatest service to the world. And so, yes, we have Mental Health Awareness Month. I argue that it should turn into Mental Health Action Month. We have awareness, acceptance, action. We have to get into the action phase. All of these months are great. They highlight a specific issue that needs addressing in our society. But we don't need any more awareness. We need action. We need tools. We need tactics. We need practical things that we can do every single day that we can make sure that we're as mentally well and as mentally stable as possible. We no longer need to be aware. We need to move into action. I'm not saying awareness isn't important. There are certain things in society that, of course, need more awareness, because if you don't have awareness, if you don't recognize that it's important, there's never going to be a change that happens with it. I understand that. Yes, that's important. But then we accept it. Then we move into action. And this is what our young people need. Every person needs this now. We need action. What are the tools, the processes, the systems, the mental health toolkit that I can actually build? What is inside that toolkit that I can actually build something that makes sense for me, my idiosyncrasies, and the way I live my life and the way I want to live my life? What are the tools that I can apply so that my mental health can be as best it can be moving forward? And when I have bad days or off days or something happens, I have protocols that I can stick to, especially when I feel my worst. Now, it starts with eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well. Those have to be the fundamentals. So when we talk about mental health action, so instead of Mental Health Awareness Month, we turn it into Mental Health Action Month. The foundation, the core of it all has to be eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well. Then once we have that squared away and we're doing that really, really well, then we can get into these nuances of how we can really express the best version of ourselves with these specific mental health tools. And that's the argument that I want to make. And that's the journey I've been on since doing this work, since I lost my sister in 2018. I've come a long way with different viewpoints and thoughts about mental health and suicide prevention, all these sorts of things. And I think this has to be the thing that we need. Like, this Mental Health Awareness Month definitely needs a sexier rebrand for people to really buy into the idea that mental health is going to be, it is very important to the overall fabric of their life if they want to live the absolute best way possible, the best version of themselves in greatest service to the world. The foundation of that is eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well. Then we have other mental health action items, tools, protocols, systems that can help us flourish in this society today, because it's about awareness, acceptance, action. And that's what I want to start with in terms of how can we make Mental Health Awareness Month more of a practical doing thing by changing it to Mental Health Action Month. All of these nonprofits and all of these companies that are doing amazing things for the mental health space, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Active Minds, my nonprofit called You Are Loved. We have to change it to giving people the tools, the processes, the systems that are applicable to any person, no matter where you're at in this world, that you can apply these tools to your mental health to get action and get moving forward and start feeling better and moving better and thinking better and acting better. And all of these things that we need to be the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. So with that said, based on all of this stuff that I've learned and understood and applied and experienced since the passing of my sister Rachel, and her memory is a blessing to me and my family as I continue to try and do this work based on the values that she represented in this world, and being my number one supporter and the best big sister I could ever have and still have, and my first best friend, and all of these amazing things. This is the work, this is the purpose sort of my life. And with that said, I wrote a book. Technically I wrote an ebook on how to do the work with our mental health, because I'm all about mental health action. What is doing the work? What does doing the work actually look like? That's why I wrote this ebook with 7 steps to try and really hone in on what we can do as to improve our mental health. And so this book has been available and is available for purchase on my Patreon for $5, and it's free to access to any monthly paying members. But because this episode and this topic is so important to me, I'm going to share that book with you here right now. And with that said, please support me on Patreon. It's the best way to support this podcast and my mental health nonprofit called You Are Loved. And so here you go. Here's the audio version of my book, of my ebook, How to Do the Work with Your Mental Health. So taking the first step towards improving your mental health can feel overwhelming, but it's also the most powerful one you can make. In a world that often demands more from us than we can give, it's easy to neglect the foundation of our well-being, our mind. This book is designed to guide you through 7 crucial areas that, when addressed, can help you begin the work of strengthening your mental health. Whether you're just starting out or looking to dive deeper, these 7 key areas will help you build a more resilient, balanced, and empowered mindset, one small step at a time. So here's the work at a glance. 1, learn to diagnose your feelings. 2, develop awareness of your beliefs, values, and habits. 3, identify how your beliefs, values impact your behaviors and actions. 4, address and acknowledge unhealed past trauma and pain. 5, notice unhelpful thinking patterns and behaviors that no longer serve you. 6, identify, create, and set clear boundaries with yourself and others. And 7, understand that growth will be uncomfortable. So number 1, learn to diagnose your feelings. This step is about learning to clearly identify and label your feelings, allowing them to be expressed and fully heard. Am I feeling angry? Am I sad, overwhelmed, rejected, somber? Whatever emotions arise, it's important to sit with them, identify and label them, and let them be expressed. However, we're not letting ourselves get lost in them or letting them define us. We simply acknowledge the feelings as they are. I'm feeling angry or I'm feeling overwhelmed without judgment. The next step is to consider what actions we can take to ease or move through those emotions, allowing them to pass without letting them control us. So then we move on to step number 2, which is develop awareness of your beliefs, values, and habits. Your beliefs, your values, and habits drive your life. What are your beliefs? What are your values? What are your habits? The number 1 thing you can do right now to improve your life is to stop doing the things that make you feel like shit. Your habits are shaped by your belief systems. So what do you believe? What are your core values? Is it resilience, consistency, love, honesty, gratitude, hope, or kindness? Take a moment to identify 3 to 7 values that resonate most with you and focus on how you want to live in alignment with them. These values should guide your thoughts, emotions, and actions, which in turn shape your behaviors and ultimately your habits. When your habits align with your core values, you're empowered to show up in the world as your authentic self, expressing your unique talents and gifts. That's number 2. Number 3, identify how your beliefs and values impact your behaviors and actions. How do your core values influence your behavior and actions? How do your beliefs shape the way you act and respond? You need to take a close, honest inventory of your life. If things aren't unfolding the way you want, or you don't consistently feel the way you desire, it's crucial to examine your beliefs and values and understand how they're shaping your behavior. If we recognize the things that aren't serving our well-being, we need to stop engaging in them. On the flip side, we should start incorporating the actions that can improve how we feel. But to make these changes, reflection is key. Take time to journal and explore these thoughts. Here are some prompts and questions to guide you through this process. 1 thing you should start doing, 1 thing you should stop doing, and 1 thing you should continue doing. And then we have well, better, how. What's going well? What needs work? And what action steps will you take to improve? That's number 3. Number 4, address and acknowledge unhealed past trauma and pain. We must confront our shadow. the darker parts of ourselves that we often avoid. Everyone carries some form of darkness with them, but the key is acknowledging it and accepting it rather than repressing or ignoring it. We can't keep running from it. We have to voluntarily face it head on, like confronting a dragon. Facing these inner struggles isn't easy, but it makes us stronger. To truly move forward, we must address the unhealed trauma from our past so we can let go of its hold on us. Only by doing this can we break free and embrace our growth and step into the best version of ourselves, no longer weighed down by past wounds that affect every area of our lives. Number 5, notice unhelpful thinking patterns and behaviors that no longer serve you. Like we talked about, without awareness, we can't recognize what needs to change. It all begins with awareness, then comes acceptance, and finally, action. That's what we're talking about. Start becoming aware of your unhelpful thinking patterns, your emotions, and where you currently stand in your life. Acknowledge what's going on within you, whether you're feeling angry, sad, or simply not where you want to be. Acceptance is key. We can't fight reality. But we can accept it and begin moving forward from there. Remember, acceptance doesn't mean complacency. It's simply our starting point, a place from which growth is possible. From acceptance, we shift into action. Mental health action. Everything hinges on action. Taking control of your mental health requires deliberate steps. These are actionable practices such as moving well, eating well, sleeping well, and thinking well that you can implement immediately to improve your mental state. These tools not only affect your mental well-being, but they also positively influence your physical health. This is what doing the work looks like: awareness, acceptance, action. Number 6, 2 more, 6 and 7. Identify, create, and set clear boundaries with yourself and others. It's essential to establish emotional boundaries in your life, both for yourself and for others. These boundaries define what you will and won't tolerate, helping you recognize what serves you and what doesn't, and ensuring that what you engage in with is in alignment with your true self. That's why understanding your beliefs and values is very important. When you're deeply connected to your core values and principles, it becomes much easier to set and maintain these emotional boundaries, allowing you to stay grounded and protect your well-being. 7, last but not least, growth will be uncomfortable. The work will be uncomfortable. When we venture into the depths of our own soul, it can often feel lonely. So prepare yourself for some solitude along the way. But know this, by doing this inner work, you will emerge on the other side as a more attuned, authentic version of yourself. You are fully capable of expressing the best version of who you are. The journey may feel isolating at times because we must confront our shadow, dive into our past, and face the painful truths we've buried. It's a process of uncovering what's been left unresolved and identifying patterns that no longer serve us. We must be willing to address our unhealed wounds, revisit old memories, and examine our limiting beliefs. We need to dig deep into our core values and beliefs. It will be difficult, understand that, but it will be worth it. The discomfort is the very thing that fuels our growth and transformation. To truly evolve, we must be ready to step into the trenches. We must be willing to face the uncomfortable, the lonely, and the challenging aspects of self-discovery. We need to embrace this work in order to understand who we really are, who we want to become, and ultimately take ownership of our lives, especially when it comes to our mental health. These steps focus on self-awareness, intentional action, and resilience, helping you create a healthier and more fulfilling mental state. If you want access to the actual ebook to pair with this episode, just send me a DM, send me an email, and I will get you sorted out. Or the easiest way is just become a member on Patreon for like $3 or $5 a month, and you get immediate access to this ebook. But it's very important because we have to understand, again, awareness, acceptance, action. And we have to transform Mental Health Awareness Month into Mental Health Action Month if we want to, as a society, become the best versions of ourselves in greatest service to the world. That's what I think personally. But again, thank you for your time and attention. I very much appreciate it. The best thing you could possibly do is share this episode with anyone who might find value in it. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.